you doing, everybody? I'm Ken Bykoff, and welcome to O'Neill Speaks, the official podcast of the Paul H. O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs at Indiana University. For the last 7 years, Siân Mooney has served as the dean of the O'Neill School, leading the school through its most prestigious era in its half-century of history. First and foremost, there is the recognition from U.S. News & World Report, which ranks the O'Neill School's Master of Public Affairs program as the top graduate program of its kind in the nation. Along with the top-ranked MPA, 4 concentrations at the O'Neill School, including Environmental Management and Policy, Health Policy and Management, Nonprofit Management, and Public Finance and Budgeting, are also ranked number 1. Additionally, multiple other concentrations rank in the top 10 in the country, including the nonprofit management programs at O'Neill's Bloomington and Indianapolis campuses, holding the top 2 rankings in the country. Now, beyond the rankings, Dean Mooney has guided the school through record enrollment, the establishment of the Environment, Society, and Sustainability Institute, 8 new degrees and certificates across IU Bloomington and IUI, more than $60 million in awards since 2019, more than $24 million in raised gifts, a growing portfolio of international partnerships, the hiring of 53 faculty members, including 37 tenure-track faculty members. The list just goes on and on. But all great times must come to a close, and this spring, Dean Mooney announced she would be pursuing her next chapter and stepping down as dean effective June 30th. We're thrilled to have Dean Mooney, who was the first ever guest of O'Neill Speaks, join us to talk about her time at O'Neill, what her experience was like, and what's next. Dean Mooney, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks, Ken. It's really great to have me back.
What made this the right time to hand over the reins to someone else?
Well, I will first of all say it was a very difficult decision to think about this, and I've thought a lot about this, but I think there were really sort of 2 factors, both personal and situational. So, I've been dean for 7 years, and that is longer than the average dean. Often deans only stay for about 4 or 5 years. And to be honest, I was a bit surprised when I suddenly looked back and found that it was 7 years. But as I did so, I realized that I really had a wonderful leadership team that has created a lot of stability within the school. They have a lot of great shared institutional knowledge, and the school is just in fantastic shape. It's got the highest enrollment ever, robust philanthropy, a really positive culture, and really wonderful student outcomes. And so, and also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that our rankings, of course, that overall from both locations are higher than they've ever been. And so people have asked, well, why step off now? But I actually think those are the reasons to step off and step away at this moment in time, because this school is in really great shape. I've moved forward many of the initiatives that I really wanted to do when I first became dean, as well as strengthening and growing many others. And I think some leaders can just stay too long. And I looked back at what I had achieved and what the team had achieved, the faculty, the staff, the students, and I felt the school was really primed for new ideas and perhaps a new leader to take over and build even more on what has been achieved. So that was really the situational part. And then I'll just get right to the personal part. I've really missed my own research, and I've really missed being in the classroom. For the past 7 years, I haven't done any teaching, and I haven't had a lot of time to do my own scholarship. And of course, that's why I became a professor to begin with. I just loved all of those things, and I'm just looking forward to having a bit of a change in focus. And I just feel that this is just a great time, because a new leader is going to have a great base upon which to build.
Well, here at the O'Neill School, just teaching leadership is such a big part of what everything goes into with the students. And part of leadership is knowing when it's time to try something different and step away and bring in new ideas. So, I mean, you're setting an example for students of what good leadership looks like. So I congratulate you on that, whether that had crossed your mind or not.
Well, thanks, Ken. Yeah, no, I do appreciate it. Actually, I've been giving some thought in that, I think it's great to step away at a moment in time where people are perhaps sad to see you go or sorry to see you go. And I think that's much better than staying too long where people are perhaps glad to see you leave.
Leave them wanting more.
Exactly.
For sure. What was the challenge of being a dean? How was that different than you expected walking into this?
Well, I didn't really honestly, I didn't know what to expect. And I'll just tell you a funny story. When I sat down at the big desk that I was given in my dean's office on day one, something that flitted through my mind was like, well, so what do you do now? What do you do as dean? Because I'd never been dean before. And at the very end of the day, I remember thinking to myself, well, the building didn't burn down. I'm going to call that a win for day one. But in all seriousness, I'd had a lot of administrative positions in the past. I'd been an associate dean, a program director at the National Science Foundation. I'd worked in a vice president for a research office, amongst many other things. But one of the things I think that surprised me the most is that being dean was definitely different, because I really felt that ultimately you're responsible. You're responsible for the good, and you're responsible also for the bad. And your words and actions really matter. And, and of course, there is a team always around you. You don't do things just on your own. But really, the buck absolutely does stop with you for both the good and the bad. And, that was intimidating as I really came to realize that. A second thing which
Did you come to love that fact?
I really loved it when it was good. And actually, there's been a lot more good than there has been difficulties. And I became accustomed to it. I think you just learn to grow into these positions, and you learn to adapt and gain new skills and roll with the punches. And it's been fine. But that was something that I really hadn't thought about. Something else that I'd never really thought about, but it became very apparent when I did take over as dean. It's actually quite a public position, and you're always representing, people are always asking you about the school. And I think, and you've known me for long enough, I think my own personality is that perhaps I'm not really a front and center person. And I think learning to do that, to represent the school loudly and clearly and be front and center, that was another thing that was a surprise for me. And I think maybe the final thing was I had a lot of experience, a very broad perspective. And one of the things I wasn't prepared for was the multitude of decisions that you need to make on pretty much a daily basis. I'd say almost an hourly basis. And when I have really settled into my deanship, one of the things that did surprise me is that I look at all the meetings that I have, which is many, many meetings every day, and each meeting can be on something completely different. So I had to learn to really quickly shift gears. I might be talking about students. I might be talking to a donor. I might be talking about research. It could be policy. It could be some other difficult situation perhaps that's going on in the school. And you have to learn to just kind of quickly shift gears and be able to hop from topic to topic to topic, and then just keep going. And pay attention in all of these different meetings, and really be able to switch around from one thing to another. And I was already reasonably good at doing that, but I think that after 7 years, I've become much better at that. That was a big surprise.
What are some of the things you're most proud of when it comes to accomplishments at the school?
There's so many things. It's hard to think of just one. I'll just say at the outset, I think that this is an amazing place. I never could have wished to have worked in such an amazing place with really great people. Everyone is, this is such high quality, the faculty, the staff, the students that we have. I mean, I really have found this really inspiring actually over the 7 years. And sometimes I wake up and I think, wow, I can't actually even believe that I'm doing this. But the things that I'm proud of, I'm very proud of our constant excellence. And I think we're quite adaptive. We adapt really quite quickly to new situations. But, being number one for all of the 7 years in the U.S. News and World Report rankings has been really great. But also beyond that, rising even further in the rankings in so many other areas. Coming to a school that's really highly ranked is, of course, a bit intimidating because there's only two things that can happen. You stay where you are or perhaps you decline in the rankings. And I never would have thought that we could have even more excellence. So I'm very proud of that. That's really the testament to the faculty and the staff and the students. I mean, people have done a wonderful job. But one of the other things I'm really proud of, and actually a colleague from another institution, when I indicated I was stepping down, called me up, and in fact they called this out, and it was something I hadn't really thought about before. But I think it has to be culture, and I'm really proud that I think that over the last 7 years the school has developed a very collegial, supportive, friendly culture. And so one example is in Indianapolis, we have like the highest staff satisfaction rankings of the entire campus. And here in Bloomington, we also have very, very high satisfaction rankings. People really want to stay. I think people really like each other. Each time I talk to parents and students, they have nothing but great things to say about the school. So I think developing a strong, supportive, collegial culture, a friendly place where people want to work, and I hope where people feel that they're seen as like actual human beings. I think that's another thing that I'm really proud of.
Obviously, the students are the reason we're here. At the O'Neill School. What are some of your favorite memories of interactions with students over the past 7 years? And you were involved with the COVID era when students weren't on campus and coming back from that. You've seen a little bit of everything. What are some of your favorite memories of the students here?
Well, first I can say that students really fill my cup. Whenever I meet with them, I'm constantly inspired by like their passion, their resilience, their optimism, I think, for the future. There are actually so many great interactions, but I think I just go straight to well, maybe there are two things that really stick out in my mind. Graduation, of course, because I get to shake the hand of everybody that crosses the stage, and it's a lot of people, but it's really wonderful. When I see them cross the stage, I can see that they're so proud. They're kind of nervous. They're excited for the future, and that's just a really great feeling to know that we've prepared all these people to enter the world and hopefully have productive and fulfilling lives. Some of the other things that I've really enjoyed is just meeting with student groups as well. And, that there are lots of student groups who have, that we have here at the O'Neill School, who are interested in things like civic responsibility, or they're interested in sustainability, or they might like the school to start some sort of new initiatives for students. And I love hearing them out and seeing what their projects are, and then hopefully being able to do some of those things. And I actually have managed to do a few of these things. I mean, one of the things recently actually has been getting a vending machine, which will be installed shortly, to have like healthier snack options, and which students wanted. And so that's just been really great because they're so well prepared and super well organized.
You talk about the optimism of students. You talk to them and they are so optimistic and look at the future, and it makes me feel bad personally. I'm like, man, I got to step up my game. If I'm there, but feeling that optimism, it's what like you said, fills the cup. Start of the school year, the buzz around campus and all the students coming back, it re-energizes, I feel, people every single year just because they get that energy from the students.
Yeah, well, I agree. Yeah, I love that beginning of camp, beginning of the semester that you've mentioned. Actually, the other thing, and I'd forgot to mention it before, is that I sort of mentioned I like the early part as well. So I love it when students come to campus, and often with their parents, before they've committed to come and be an O'Neill student or even perhaps an IU student. And, I get to talk to them, to tell them a little bit about the school. And it's so easy, first of all, to talk about the school because there are so many great things to say. But it's also really lovely to meet students who are leaving high school and to hear kind of what their hopes and dreams are, and then to see their excitement, and then also to see all the support of the parents with them, and oftentimes to hear about, oh, my brother or my sister went here, or my aunt or my uncle, or maybe my parents went here. And that's been really great too, just to hear the stories.
Let's go back to 2019. If you could talk to yourself in 2019, what advice would you give yourself?
So I came here in 2019, and as you mentioned before, early in 2020, it was the COVID-19 pandemic. I think that, which of course I could never have foreseen when I came here in 2019, and was definitely a bit of a curveball. But, I think the thing that I would tell myself would be to enjoy the journey a bit more, and or to just enjoy the journey more, because I think my personality type is I'm often very focused on the destination. Sure. And, and I think we've certainly been to a lot of destinations now as a school. And, there's so much work every day, and so many decisions and so many different things that are going on, that I think sometimes, many times, I think I forgot to take like a step backwards and just kind of go, wow, this is actually kind of amazing. These are great people. This is a wonderful journey. And my advice to myself would be to step back and enjoy it just a little bit more.
Well, that's pretty common for everybody. You get so focused on the day to day that bigger picture kind of fades a little bit. So you're not alone with that for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. How did being dean change you as both a professional and as a person?
It's a great question, and probably actually quite a lot, in more ways than you might imagine. So, I'm not naturally a very patient person, and I think being dean has made me much more patient, because you're working with a lot of people. Things don't always come together in the way that you expect that they're going to. Sometimes there's lots of curveballs. There's things that you can't control yourself because they're external factors, and it comes at you fast and you have to react. So I've become a lot more patient. I think the other thing is, I've certainly always had empathy, but I think I have become, more empathetic through my 7 years, because in a position like this, as well as all the really wonderful things, I think you see all you get to see many difficulties that people have in their personal lives that do create big difficulties, like health issues, or family, bereavements, or other kinds of things, financial issues, just all kinds of things that are going on in people's lives that you might never actually really imagine. And because I'm dean, you become privy to some of those things. And, it really made me much more aware of the fact there could be all kinds of very difficult things going on in people's lives, and that you need to offer a lot more. I think it's made me a lot more willing to offer grace and I think that also comes with the patience, but grace and empathy. That and I think also, I mean, I've always valued teams, but I think understanding how important it is to surround yourself with people that you can trust implicitly, that have your back and you have their back as well, and to people that you can be completely transparent with, and so I think those are a few of the things that I feel that have kind of changed me both as a professional and kind of as a person. I think when I was more of a faculty member, I think I was more of an independent operator because you are there doing your own work, and I think I'm much more comfortable now relying on a team. And in fact, I think it's going to make me a much better faculty member because I think you can achieve so much more with a team than you can with yourself.
Right. Well, it gives you perspective, too. As you move back into being a faculty member, you understand some of the decisions that are going on in the school that a faculty member or anybody in any job, they see it through their eyes, but this perspective is got to be a positive as you move back.
Yeah. I think it will be really helpful, and and to know that sometimes it's difficult to understand why people make some of their decisions because you actually might not be able to share some of the why.
Yeah. What is some of the things that you hope to accomplish that you didn't quite get time to finish? I don't want to say regrets because that's not the right word. It is things that you hoped for or that you maybe envisioned that just haven't had time to come to fruition.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's a great question. I mean, I definitely don't have regrets. Some of the things I might have liked to have seen kind of just a little bit further along. I think that you mentioned early on that we established the Environment, Society and Sustainability Institute, and it took a while to establish that. And there was when we talked about patience earlier, there was a lot of input that was really needed to do that, and it went a little bit slower than I had initially envisioned. But I think it's stronger for all of the input, and I would have liked to have seen it further along, but I'm also really, really glad that it started and already doing very, very well. Something else that I do feel really glad that was launched, 2 years ago was the O'Neill Center on Leadership and Public Service, and I think that actually is well underway and doing really well. I love our Executive in Residence program. I don't really have like a whole many other things that I really wish were underway. I think that we've strengthened a lot of our programs and have started new things as well. But I think it's the appropriate mix of really good things that were here already and then additional things that can amplify the really good things that were here already. And of course, you always have to pivot a bit because the external environment is always changing, and particularly now it's a very fast-paced external environment for higher education. But I think that I think the school is really set up very well to pivot with all of these things that are going on externally. And I don't really have a real big list of additional things that I wish that I had done right at this time. Yeah, I actually feel very satisfied.
That's the best way to pursue that next chapter. We talked about advice you'd give yourself in 2019. David Aldrich is going to take over as interim dean. Here, there's obviously interim means there's going to be somebody different down the way. We're not sure who that is. What advice would you give to whoever that next dean might be that maybe you wish you would have gotten, or just that learned experience that you'd like to pass on?
God, that's a great. Well, yeah. First of all, I know that David Aldrich is going to do a wonderful job over the next few months. Advice. I'd say it comes back to the team again. I think, surround yourself with people that complement your own skills. I think you have to know yourself quite well to understand where you're strong and where you're not strong, because nobody can be strong at everything. And, for me, I feel that my team, or the team here at present, really complements many of my skills and fills in where I'm, not so strong, and I recognize that I'm not strong at some of the things. So I think that's the biggest advice. I'd say build a really wonderful team that you can rely on, and then really give them the power and the latitude to do the things that are going to make the school really strong, give them a lot of self-determination, a lot of opportunity to make their own decisions, because I think that you really benefit from being surrounded by these really smart people who also are going to have just tons of great ideas. And then maybe the second thing would be, and I think most people would know this already, but that we just have such passionate faculty and staff as well. We have really wonderful resources here. We have wonderful teams in all of the different staff categories, and I think to kind of recognize that, and again to listen to what people have to say, because I think that people know this school really well, and they can provide really great perspective, and that's just really helpful, I think, when you move forward, because you're always going to come in with your own preconceived notions and new ideas, but I think taking a beat to see what other people have to say is helpful.
What's next for you?
Well, I'm going to harken back to our first interview, Ken. And you learned a lot about my sporting passions
Sure.
during that time. So I will say one of the things that's next for me is spending a bit more time with my mountain bike.
Okay.
Yes, so that's one thing. But intellectually, I also have some aspirations as well. So, I think the next year for me is going to be a bit like going back to being a PhD student again. And what I need to do is reinvigorate my research agenda. I have worked for a long time in climate change and design of policies for greenhouse gas mitigation, and also water rights issues in the Western United States. And I need to get up to speed on what the literature looks like right now, and think of some new topics that are going to take me forward into the future. And actually a couple of things that I've already thought about. I do think that AI centers and data centers are going to be really an interesting topic, because they have some environmental impacts as well as economic impacts for community development and job creation and that kind of thing. So that's one potential area. But I think there's just no shortage of great questions in environmental economics. And so in the next year, I'm going to be thinking about what is it that I would like to study next. And relearning how to teach. I'll be honest, I'm a bit intimidated. I haven't been in the classroom in 7 years. And a lot of things have changed, and particularly with the impact of AI, I need to retool and work out how do you be a professor in today's new technology age. So I have a lot of I have a lot of learning ahead of me, Ken.
But that's exciting. I mean, you talk about being intimidated. That's, again, re-energize and refine that spirit to teach. That's where your batteries get recharged with that.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. When I was a faculty, of course I'm still a faculty member, but when I was doing a normal regular faculty job, I loved teaching. And I'd also really loved research as well. And I'm looking forward to, getting back to those passions and having the time to do it. And, I'll always be here if anyone ever has any questions. But I'm just, looking forward to learning some new things and doing some upskilling for myself. And in fact, I might even take some classes next year, because I probably do need to upskill my skills a little bit so I can get back in the classroom and back to research.
Well, the goal for anybody in a leadership role, especially at the level that you were at, is to leave the place better than you found it. And there's no question that you accomplished, or checked off that box. So congratulations on the past 7 years. Thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck as you go forward.
Oh, well, thank you, Ken. I really appreciate that.
Well, that's all the time we have today on O'Neill Speaks. O'Neill Speaks is the official podcast of the Paul H. O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs. All opinions and comments on O'Neill Speaks belong to the host and the guest of the O'Neill School and don't necessarily reflect those of the school itself. Music for O'Neill Speaks is by Manos Mars. Be sure to subscribe to O'Neill Speaks on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcatcher app so you don't miss an episode. We're out of time, but for now, and for the O'Neill School, I'm Ken Bykoff saying thanks for listening, everybody. Thank you.